Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Yin. I'm Trish, and we're going to do a nice, relaxing practice this evening. We're going to start to open up through our feet and through the bottoms of our legs, and we'll do a little bit of acupressure. So let's start off this evening with legs up the wall. So we're going to come and sit with our hip sideways next to your wall. So bring your hip all the way next to the wall to start. And then from here, we're just going to swivel around and bring our feet up against the wall. You might want to scoop your hips in a little bit. And then just start to relax your feet up against the wall. And then lengthen up through your spine, from the base of the spine all the way up to the crown of the head. Widen through your shoulders, collarbones, and then sliding the shoulders back down away from the ears. Lengthening up through the back of the neck, maybe starting to roll the chin in towards the throat slightly. And then just take a couple of nice deep breaths here. If you need to, just keep a little bend in the knees so that you're not feeling any pulling. And as you inhale, just starting to broaden out across the back. Breathing into the hips, the belly. Feeling that expansion of the belly like a balloon. And then from the belly, just starting to feel the full capacity of your lungs from the bottom, middle, top, front, side, and back. Breathing into the heart center. Maybe another breath into the neck and throat. As you exhale, just gently starting to soften. So starting to soften and widen through the hips. Maybe starting to feel the weight of the hips in their sockets. And softening up through the abdomen, softening through the chest and the shoulders. Maybe starting to widen out across your shoulder girdle at the back, broadening through the collarbones at the front. As you soften through the shoulders, maybe you can relax your shoulders a little bit further down away from the ears. And the shoulders softening up through the neck and throat. Clenching the jaw. Softening up through the face, the cheeks, the eyes, eyebrow center. Lengthening up through the crown of the head and keeping the tip of the tongue gently resting on the roof of the mouth just behind the two front teeth. And then just starting to slow and deepen the breath. Nice, full deep body breaths, flooding the body all the way from the hips to the collarbones with the inhalation. And as we exhale, just continuing to soften and release. Letting go of any thoughts, letting go of any tension, letting go of the day. And just putting aside this next little while for yourself in your practice. We're just starting to slow and deepen the breath. As we start to slow and deepen the breath, just calming the mind and the central nervous system. A little bit deeper with each breath. And as you start to soften, perhaps from your hand, if your hands are by your hips along the wall, you might be able to take them out by your shoulders, maybe bringing them into cactus arms, or maybe starting to extend them above the head and perhaps holding onto your elbows. So it's perhaps opening the chest as well if it feels good. If anything feels like it's pulling, just release out of it. Otherwise, we just want to feel like we're in a nice supported opening position here. Expanding the body with the breath as you inhale, as you exhale, just keep softening. And just starting to feel all the blood and energy from our feet just gently starting to flow back towards the heart. Especially when we stand up all day and everything's flowing down to the feet. And then from here, just gently start to wriggle your toes and start to create space in between the toes, especially if you've been wearing tight shoes during the day. And then just keeping one heel on the ground, on the floor, so it's nice and relaxed. Maybe just taking the other foot off so we could just have a little bit of space, and maybe just gently starting to circle the ankle a few times in one direction, just moving really nice and slowly, like as if you're moving underwater. And as you do that, just feel those little tiny bones in your feet and your ankle just starting to spread out and open up, creating space between all those little tiny bones, and then just gently circling it back the other way. deepening the breath as we create space, just breathing into that space. And then once you've circled in both directions, maybe just gently starting to point and flex the feet. So as you point and extend out through the toes, you're just feeling that stretch through the front of your leg and your foot. As you point the toes to the sky, as you exhale, maybe starting to flex the foot as you extend out through your heel and pull the toes back towards you, and just feeling a nice opening up through the back of your leg from your hamstring, opening the back of your knee, stretching the calf, Achilles, and up through the heel and the sole of the foot. And then maybe feeling that hip nice and grounded in its socket, and then feeling the head of your thigh bone in its socket, lifting out of the hip so we can feel space in that hip socket. Maybe just gently, internally and externally rotating the hip by angling your foot inwards and outwards. And so just very gentle exploration here. Okay. Any of those movements that feel good that we've gone through, so you go, oh, okay, that felt really nice for me, and that's what I need to do at this point in time. Go back to the circles, or maybe just exploring one angle of that circle, or one area of that circle if you're feeling that was a little bit tight, or maybe just pointing and flexing or circling the hips. So just listening to your body and just doing what feels nice. Okay, from here, gently release that foot back, that heel back towards the wall, and then come back into legs up the wall. Everything's nice and still. And just take a couple of nice deep breaths here. And just checking in with the body. Notice how you feel, perhaps on one side compared to the other. Maybe the leg that we've just done feels a little bit more open, hopefully. Just checking in, and then let's gently do the other side. So when you're ready, just slowly bring your heel slightly away from the wall, and then starting to wiggle the toes and starting to open up. And the toes opening up through the feet. And slowly starting to circle the ankle and opening up all those little tiny bones in your ankle. Slowly back the other way. So think about the quality of your movement rather than how many circles we can do. And perhaps just finding a place around that circle that you want to just explore a little bit. And keep deepening the breath as we creating space. Keep breathing into that space and flooding it with fresh oxygen, fresh energy. And then perhaps just starting to point and flex the foot. Starting to extend all the way out from the heel of the foot, extending out through the toes. And feeling that opening all the way. So when you're flexing, feel that all the way from your glutes, your hamstrings, opening backs of knees, calves, Achilles, and feet. And then as you point, start to feel that winding from your hip, and then stretch from your quad and through your shin all the way through your ankle and top of your foot. And from there, maybe bring the awareness a little bit lower down into the actual hip itself, feeling the weight of the hip in its socket. Maybe gently rocking it from side to side, and then feeling that big thigh bone being nice and secure in the socket. Space lifting the out of the hips, so we've got space in the hips. We can gently start to internally and externally rotate that foot, that hip. Okay, and then when you're ready, just gently release and just bring that heel back to the ground. Take a couple of nice deep breaths here. Okay, and then when you're ready, let's lift the pelvic floor, belly hugs in. Exhale, just hug the knees in towards the chest and gently rock yourself from side to side. Widen out through your hip crease and lengthening your sit bones down to back towards the wall. And then when you're ready, just gently roll onto your side. And then if you like, you can just extend the legs out, just give them a little shake out and just come into shavasana for a moment. Otherwise, if you like, you can roll up. So depending on how much space you have, you can just roll to the side, extend the legs out. Just take a couple of breaths here as we just feel that release through the hips and just allowing and just move really nice and slow. So there's no need to rush. We just take our time in our yin practice. Let's allow and give ourselves permission to slow down. And so just extend the legs out. So we're just bringing the body into a nice neutral position and then just observing any subtle changes. Sometimes we might feel blood or energy flowing through the body. And if you're feeling any of that, just breathing into it. And allowing everything to assimilate. The shoulders relaxed, back of the neck is long, and tip of the tongue gently resting on the roof of the mouth behind the two front teeth. Okay, when you feel your breath and energy has returned to normal, let's gently wriggle the fingers and toes, stretching out, and then just exhale, hug the knees in towards the chest, and just rock a little bit more from side to side. Massaging the back, widening out through the hips, and then just circling the knees a few times in one direction, and gently back the other way. And then take the knees apart, circle them in opposite directions. And gently back the other way. Okay, bring your feet onto the ground, hug the belly into the spine, and just gently dropping the knees to one side. Inhale to center, exhale to the other side. So just a very gentle mobilizing twist and moving with the breath. Eye gaze wherever's comfortable. Ready? Let's gently roll onto our side and support ourselves to come up. Okay, we'll just do a little bit of mobilization, and I want you guys just to check in with how we'll do a few cat cows, and then we'll walk the legs out either in tabletop or in down dog. So you're just tuning into your body. So let's just come and mobilize the spine. So coming up into tabletop, lengthening up through the spine as we inhale, and then exhale, just rounding the back, and then as we inhale, keeping the belly hugging to the spine. Inhale, lengthening the spine and reaching the heart forwards as we arch. So just opening through the front to the back of the body a few times. And then when you're ready, after your next exhalation, come back into a neutral position. From here, let's just take one leg and we're just going to come onto the toes as we extend that heel back, and then just gently sliding the hips back and forth, and just feeling a little bit more opening up through the back of that leg. And just check in with how you're feeling through the sole of the foot, through the calves, through the backs of your knees, your hamstrings. Okay, maybe just circle that hip a few times. Just doing a little circle with the hip, and then back the other way. Bend that knee back in, and then go to the second side. So just pushing the heel away as we gently slide the hips back and forth. And just bringing your awareness to the back of that leg. Notice how it feels. Does it feel open? Does it feel tight? Which areas might feel open? Which areas might feel tight? And just circling the hip a few times in one direction and then back the other way. Okay. Now from here, you can just do that again on each side. Otherwise, if it's comfortable, maybe tuck the toes under and then slide up into down dog, and then just stretching out across the back and stretching out through the legs. And once again, just taking a few moments to check in with the body, notice how everything feels. All right, and then from here, let's come back down. Coming back onto your knees. And then we're now going to grab a couple of blocks and maybe your bolster as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put a little bit of pressure onto the Achilles and the soleus muscle underneath the calf. Okay, so I want you to grab your block and bring it on its highest end. So from here, I want you to bring your foot onto that block with the knee very bent. So we want the knee extremely bent, and then your other leg can kind of be underneath like so, or whatever's comfortable. Okay, so we're just kind of using gravity here. So you should feel the edge of the block. So really lengthen the spine, widen the hips, and then bend that knee quite a lot so you can melt your belly onto your thigh. Okay, and then from here, keeping that belly on the thigh, you can, if you're quite high up, grab your other block and you can pop your block on your shin and then just kind of melt forwards. Okay, so right now we should feel a sensation, a little bit of pressure and compression along the back, like a bit of pressure onto the Achilles here. And then it should be painful, but there should be a sensation. And then you can just very slowly start to maybe roll your hip in and out. So as you roll from side to side, you start to feel that edge of a block giving you a massage. Okay, so hopefully you guys all have it. If you have it, then relax your head down. So you can use your other block, as I mentioned before, and place that other block or a cushion or even a little pillow and rest it down. And so here we don't want to be pushing in our yin practice, so we never want to force anything. So I just want you to find where there is some sensation. It might feel a little bit tender, a little bit tight. And then rather than pushing into it, just try to breathe into it and soften. And try to relax the foot as well. And then just deepening the breath. So we can maybe bring that in a little bit further if it's not comfortable. So hopefully you guys are comfortable here you're at, and just finding a nice relaxed position. Feel a little release, and we're just rolling the foot slightly. So if I'm here, and then I can maybe just roll my hip out a little bit, and then it just changes the angle. And just keep breathing into it. Deepening the breath. Notice if you're holding tension through other areas as well. If you're holding tension in your face and your jaw and your shoulders, try to relax and soften. Okay, we'll take a couple more nice deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, gently push into your hands. Roll yourself back up and then release. From here, release the block, release the leg. Just give it a nice little shake out for a moment. And then just gently starting to flex and point the feet. Okay, let's come back either into tabletop and walk the legs out, or in down dog and walk the legs out. So roll yourself back around, and then from here you can either stay in tabletop and just extend one heel back, and then just once again just checking in with how it feels. You might feel there's a little bit more openness and just stretching everything out. And then just do the other leg to compare if you're, and then maybe just staying there if down dog's not very comfortable yet. Otherwise, if it's comfortable for down dog, come into down dog, and then just check in with how you feel one side compared to the other. If your heels are all the way down with your legs straight, you might be able to lift the toes and just deepen that stretch. And so hopefully one side feels a little bit more open. And then when you're ready, let's gently bring ourselves back down. And let's do the second side. Okay, so from here, grab your block and bending the knee in. So we're thinking about widening the hip and then try to have belly to thigh. So there's no pulling through the back, no pulling through the hamstring. Everything is nice and relaxed. Try to keep that foot relaxed as well. So when we dorsal flex, that's going to activate all that area that we're putting pressure on. So we want to try to keep that foot nice and relaxed. So don't flex your foot, just try to keep it nice and relaxed. Yeah, and then from here, find some support. So you can use your cushion your block. Otherwise, if you have cushions, sometimes it might be nicer to just rest your forehead on a cushion. I like to do that sometimes when I'm doing some forward folds. Okay, otherwise, I have hard blocks and I have soft blocks. My pink blocks are hard and my grey blocks are soft on my head. So just find whatever's nice and comfortable. Yeah, or you can use your bolster, your belly, and just allowing that leg to be heavy. So try to think about widening and flattening your back along your thigh, because the more that you can do that, the less pulling there's going to be along the posterior line of your body. So if we're rounded like this, if my back is round like this, then I'm tensing the posterior. And there's so remember how we were mentioning tensegrity a few with all you guys at different points in time. So when there's tension there, so if my back is round like that and I've got the prop here and I'm rounding my back, that's then creating tension all along the posterior fascial line of my body. If I widen my hip and I think about my belly on my thigh as I come forwards without putting something underneath my belly, so where I'm putting something is going to be underneath my head. So a small block or a small cushion or a bigger thing more on top of your shin or knee will then give you more support, because you're not pulling through the back. So think about belly on thigh. Okay, so widen the hip crease, and then the more that you can bring your belly onto your thigh, the less pulling there's going to be along the back, which allows us then to get a deeper release on the area that we're trying to target. And you can even keep your back relatively straight as well, Sheila. If you don't want to round forwards, you can just kind of go like this, and then think about belly on thigh. So even bring that even closer in, and so find sometimes the different angles that we can play with. If you don't want to round, just find forwards, and then just relax the head. Let's keep breathing into it. Maybe some gentle movement, just gently rocking from side to side to help release. Okay, when you're ready, let's push into the hands. Bring yourself back up, releasing the blocks. And then from here, just give the legs a nice little shake out. And then once you've shaken them out, just start to flex the feet, pushing the heels away as you draw the toes back. So we're just lengthening that area a little bit. And then pointing and flexing. Just gently mobilizing. And then let's come around and come back into tabletop or down dog. So start with the side that we just did and extending out. Heel. Breathing into it, into that space. Once again, just check in with your body, notice how it feels. A little bit more open, space. Side, and then maybe staying in tabletop to do that. Or maybe coming back up into down dog. And stretching out. So if you feel that that area has created a little bit more space, then as we were discussing tensegrity of your fascia, so Imagine if you're wearing a pair of leggings and they're very tight along your ankles, for example, and they're all gathered and bunched up along your ankle, and then it's going to make it hard to pull it over your hips because there's not enough fabric. So think about your fascia like that. So think about, now that we've created space here, think about maybe pulling it up along the back of your leg and along your back in your tabletop or your down dog. So if I've created more space in this area, then as I lengthen out, I can maybe start to imagine that I'm stretching it up the back of my leg and opening the back of my knee and creating a little bit more space. So just applying that concept and see if we have created a little bit more space that's going to allow us to stretch almost like we're wearing a pair of leggings, and bring that further up so it creates more space around the back of our knee, around the hamstring, and maybe over the glutes and along the back if you're coming into down dog as well. So from this point, we're drawing it up and seeing if we can create more space wherever it's tight. Okay, we're just exploring that concept. And in a comfortable, supported, in a comfortable position. So if you're comfortable in down dog, you can stay in down dog. Otherwise, come into tabletop and explore that in tabletop. And maybe start to open up all the way from the toe pads, opening up from the toes to your balls of your feet, to the arches, the sole of the foot, right to the heel. And from the heel, opening up and maybe taking some space that we've created along the Achilles to stretch over the heel. It's tight. Okay. Let's come back down now. We're going to grab our tennis balls. And we're going to come into deer position. We're going to do a little bit of acupressure now. So so just palpate first. So along your shin, just on the outside of your shin, closer towards the knee. If you just palpate there, there's a few points that should feel a little bit tender. So as you push into it, your body should just go, oh, okay, I can feel those points there, right? So we're going to try to get into those points. And at the same time, we're also going to get into the ITB band. So along here, next to your shin, it's your stomach meridian. And along here is through the gallbladder. So we're going to get into those points. And then on a physical level as well, it will get into your shin and your ITB. So we're going to access this from deer position. So we're going to start with one knee out to the side with one shin forwards, and then the other knee facing forwards with the shin in line with the short end of your mat. Okay, once you're in the position and you have the tennis balls there, feel free to adjust your body in any way you like. So the leg that we've palpated, so we know where it is, we're going to bring that first tennis ball just underneath the shin, and then from here, maybe just rock a little bit until you find the spot. As soon as your body should sort of tell you when you've hit the trigger point, because it will be a little bit tender. And its option is to either just stay here if you like. Otherwise, if you want to do both, you can add the other one and bring it onto the outside of the leg. Okay, so on the side of the leg. So if it's too intense with both tennis balls, then just do the one underneath the knee. Okay, so just really tune into your body, do what feels good. And then from here, just bring your torso forwards diagonally. So if you want less pressure, just come up a little bit higher. If you want more pressure, then gently lower yourself down. And then if you like, maybe just pop a block underneath your forehead just to give you a little bit of support. Okay, and then starting to breathe into it. Or 2 blocks. Yep, so you can always adjust the blocks onto different ends or awesome stacking down. And so just be nice and supported, and then just breathing into those points. And then as you exhale, just sending a message from the mind to the body just to release and soften. And then you can just continue to melt down. Otherwise, if it feels good, maybe just gently starting to do some slow, gentle movements, maybe very slowly, as if you're almost moving underwater, and some gentle swaying or rocking. Sometimes some gentle movement can help to release. And just keep deepening the breath. Keep trying to soften there. So make sure that you're not holding on to it going, oh my God, this is very painful. When is this going to stop? Because we're holding for a few minutes. So try to soften and deepen the breath. Bring the awareness deeper into your body. Keep sending a message from your mind to any tight areas to soften and release. And so just have the other leg however's comfortable. If it's not comfortable with that in that deer position, for example, Diane, you can just straighten that leg or bring it out into a straight leg. If you felt a release, and then maybe just gently roll the ball into another spot. Deepening the breath. And just noticing the sensations within your body as we start to release through those trigger points. Notice if sometimes we might feel referring sensations. As you release there, you might feel, for example, release through your jaw or through your shoulders as you start to relax or deepen. Notice if you're holding tension in other areas of the body. If you are, just breathing into them and softening. Okay, when you're ready, let's slowly start to release. So we're going to start to push into our hands and support ourselves to come back up. Bring your hands behind you now, and then release your other foot forwards, and then hug your belly into the spine. Inhale, knees to center. Exhale across. So just a very gentle mobilizing twist. Move the balls out of the way. Okay. And then from here, just extend the legs out. Give the legs a little shake out for a moment. And then just relax yourself back in shavasana. Just allow all your energy just to flow in a nice neutral position, and just take a couple of moments there. You need to shake the legs out, and just deepening the breath, breathing into the body, noticing any subtle changes, energy flowing. Notice how you feel, perhaps on one side compared to the other. Okay, from here, when you're ready, slowly bring the movement back in, wriggling fingers and toes. What feels good. You might want to stretch out or give yourself a hug, or hug the knees in and rock from side to side. And circle the knees a few times in one direction, other way. And just dropping the knees from side to side. All right, slowly roll to the side, support ourselves to come back up nice and slowly. Take your time, and then let's do the second side. So from here, just coming into deer pose on the second side, maybe just gently palpate if you're not used to working with these points. So you can just feel where the points are that you're going to roll first. And then when you're ready, you can bring the tennis balls there. Once you've got the spot, so just rock around. You can bring can sort of roll it into position, or I've just kind of palpated and then brought the tennis balls into the spots and then brought my knee down. So many different ways of doing it. And grab your block for your block or blocks. And then once you have the spot or the spots, then you can have the option of maybe widening out through the hip crease and slowly starting to Melt yourself down if you want a little bit more pressure. Otherwise, feel free to keep in a more elevated position if you want less intensity. And starting to breathe into it. And softening and deepening with the breath. And so Diane, maybe use 2 blocks or even your bolster on top of a block. Sorry, your bolster and then a block on top of your bolster. And once again, we're not pushing or forcing, we're simply melting and observing. And so you might be incorporating some gentle movement or just melting in stillness and deepening the breath. Whatever option you're taking, just observing the energy within your body. If you've released in one point, then maybe just sliding the ball a little bit further along and finding another spot. Continue to melt down and deepen with the breath. And we'll just take a couple more nice, deep, beautiful breaths here. Try to release as much as you can for these last few. And then when you're ready, gently ground into your hands. And then support yourself to come back up. Moving nice and slow. And then from here, roll the balls a little bit out of the way. Bring the hands behind, slide your back foot in, and then draw your belly in as you gently draw the knees from one side to the other. And then when you're ready, once you've done that, just extend the legs out, give them a little shake out, and then roll back down, come back into a neutral position, and then just breathing into the body. And just observing any sensations. And the spine long, shoulders are relaxed, and tip of the tongue resting on the roof of the mouth behind the 2 front teeth. Let's gently start to bring the movement in, so actually with the fingers and the toes, maybe stretching out. And when you're ready, hug the knees in and then gently rock from side to side. Circle the knees in one direction, rock the other way. The knees in opposite directions. And back the other way. Okay, bring the feet back down and then just dropping the knees from side to side. And then slowly one to the side. And support yourself to come back up. And take your time here. Okay. Now we're going to stretch out through the tops of our feet. So Diane, let me know this is not accessible. There's a standing version as well. So we're going to grab our bolster now. And bring your bolster in front of you. You're going to sit back. So if it's comfortable, we're going to sit back onto the heels. Okay. If this is not accessible, you can do this next to a wall standing as well. Okay. So from here, we're going to shift. So I'm going to shift my weight into my right hip. I'm going to start to lift my other knee. And then from here, I'm just going to slide that knee slightly forwards so that now I'm resting my knee onto my bolster. My knee slightly in front of my other knee. And I'm just getting a nice stretch through the top of my foot and the top of my ankle. So I'm just bringing my knee slightly up. So we can just kind of hug it up if that's also another option. But otherwise, we just kind of hug it, bring it onto there if that's... And then you can maybe bring your other knee out to the side and come a little bit higher up. So on the other side, it's kind of like that. So I've got one knee open and the other knee up, and just my foot and my toes are still on the ground. So I can, if it's very tight, then come back to this side so it's a little bit easier to see. So the other, you can keep the other knee just sort of winding out to the side, this top knee. So if it feels very tight, just don't slide it up too high. If you want more, then you can slide it a little bit higher, or you can even start to reach back and then come into the toes. But we're going to take our time. So just start with the ankle, just getting a nice stretch to the top of the foot and the ankle. Keep lengthening out through the inside of your ankle. So make sure your foot's kind of not sickling inwards, but we want to keep creating lots of length through that inside of the ankle. Okay, and just breathing into it here. So notice how the foot will normally tend to sickle, and we want to lengthen out through that inner ankle. If you want a bit more, lean your weight slightly forwards. So when we're stretching the ankle, top of the foot, and then maybe pushing down through the back of the ankle as well. And then from here, you can maybe slide that knee a little bit higher up. So you're onto the shin, and we're on the tops of our toes rather than tucked under. So now I'm getting this really awesome stretch through the top of my foot, which can be a little bit intense, but on this angle, it should be a lot less intense. And so we're not trying to force, we're just feeling a nice supported stretch here and just breathing into it. So again, if it feels comfortable, you can come a little bit lower, or you can use your blocks and support yourself higher up. Deepening the breath. So wherever you're feeling those little tight areas, start to breathe into it. Try to create space as you lengthen out through the sole of your foot as well. So as we start to open up through the top of your foot, you might find that you can lengthen the toes out a little bit more. Okay. And take a couple more nice deep breaths here. And when you're ready, just gently bring the hands back in, and then release that leg, roll onto your other side, and then just extend that leg out, give it a little shake out. And then, so shake it out first, and then when it feels okay, because that can be quite intense, so just want to shake it out, get everything flowing, and then when it feels okay, you can start to wriggle the toes again, and just circling a few times, mobilizing it in one direction and back the other way, and then pointing and flexing. Okay, take both legs out, give them a little shake out, and just check in one side compared to the other. go on to the second side. So from here, let's sit back onto our heels. And then we're going to widen out through the hips, bring your knees a little bit out, and then you're going to slide that knee up. And then as you progress higher up, you can just take the other knee further out to the side. Okay, so lengthen up through the inside of your ankle. And just getting a nice stretch here. Just deepening the breath and softening down. So once again, we do not want to be pushing into it at all. We're just getting a nice gentle stretch here. It can be intense, but it should be gentle. Our bodies and our manner towards everything should be gentle. If it's tight, because most of us tend to have tight feet because we're wearing tight shoes all day. We're standing up all day. So but just keep breathing into it and softening down. Creating space. And then if you've released, you can maybe slide that, come a little bit higher up, or even put that knee in. Nice, deep, beautiful breaths here. And when you're ready, push into your hands. Slowly bring yourself back. And then roll onto your other side. Release that leg. And then just give it a nice little shake out. And so just shake it out until you feel the feeling and the movement back into your legs. Sometimes it can be quite intense. Sometimes when we work with and target areas that we might not pay that much attention to, it can feel a little bit tight. So just give it a little shake. And then once you feel everything is good again, just wiggle the toes and then circling the ankles. We gently mobilize everything and then back the other way. And then pointing and flexing the feet. Okay, shake out. All right, let's now open up through the soles of the feet. So we're not going to do this one too long because this one can be a little bit intense. But now, hopefully everything's quite open in our feet. I want you to start to bring your feet to hip width and spread your toes nice and wide. So our middle toe is pointing forwards. And if you tend to have tight feet, and your toes are kind of stuck together, I want you to use your fingers and actually create space physically between each of your digits. Okay, so if you paint your toenails, those little spaces that we use to space the toes. So try to actually physically do that with your hands and create space in between each of the toes. Okay, from here, we bring the hands forwards and then bring your knees down onto the mat. So we should feel that nice stretch now through from the toe pad to the ball of your foot, and then you can stretch out through the arch of your foot. Lengthen the spine, relax the shoulders. If you want a little bit more, slide your knees a little bit further forwards. Let's take some nice deep breaths here. All right, let's gently release. We don't want to stay this much long. Release and then just tuck your legs out. Toes and then tuck them up again. And then get the feeling back in. All right, extend the legs out. Just give them a nice little shake out. Come into shavasana. And I'm going to just demonstrate. So I just want you guys just to hang out in shavasana after you shake your legs out. And just breathe into the body and just observe the energy as you just watch. And let your toes come back into normal. And I'm just going to demo for the next pose. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to just create a nice stretch through the quad, a little bit compressed to the ITB, and we're going to feel that create internal rotation so we can kind of sort of just target all these areas that we have been rolling. So option one, so I maybe you can come into half hero pose, which is this. So this is the what we can come into. Otherwise, if this is not comfortable for your knees, then we're going to have your knees together, feet to the edges of the mat, and then inhaling here. And as you exhale, we're going to hug the belly in, widen out through your hips, and then we drop the knees across. But then as you bring the knees across, you're widening the hip and you're winding that, and you can bring the shoulders down, belly hugs in, and we're winding that thigh inwards, and we're winding the knee inwards, and we're winding the that whole leg inwards. Okay, so it's like a widening the hip, and then you're creating this winding motion, which is going to support your knee, and then you're going to push that, keep wind. So we're not pushing the knee joint, but we're winding that knee towards the floor. Okay, and then from here you can have your toes pointed or flexed, whatever is more comfortable. All right, and so you're just going to feel that internal rotation there, and you're feeling a little bit of stimulation along those points. Now, otherwise, if you want a little bit more, then we sit up and we bring our knees together. We do the same thing where we widen out through the hip and we start to wind that thigh inwards. But then as you continue to wind, you feel everything supporting the knee joint as you continue to wind it in. Then you bring your toes pointed and you bring your heel just to sit on the outside of your hip. Okay, so our knees stay together in this position, and then from here bring the hands back, and then we come back. So I want you guys to decide which version is going to be better for your body. Okay, but basically this one's going to be a little bit more intense, and then we melt back, and then you can bring your other knee out to the side. So it's very similar that or that, but it's just that there's going to be a much deeper angle, so you're going to get a much more intense stretch through the quad and that compression on the side of the knee and through these areas. So find your option here. So if you are taking the less intense option, you bring your knees together, feet to the edges of the mat. Inhale, and as you exhale, keep hugging the belly into the spine. You drop the knees across, okay? And then widen out through the hip crease, and that top hip we start to wind down as you start to wind that knee towards the floor, okay? Or this side, whichever side you do. We're just gonna do both sides. Otherwise, we bring one leg out, bring the knee in, and then wind the thigh inwards, which then allows us to keep winding the calf out, and then relaxing back, okay? And then so we keep winding that knee down towards the floor, and then just relaxing the head, and then just feeling that opening through that, opening up through that hip. Make sure we're not pushing onto the knee joint, but it's a nice supported movement to that winding movement to deepen, and then maybe starting to just lift up through the hip of the knee that we're winding to the floor. The other knee's just relaxed out to the side. Just breathing into it here. And so we should feel opening up through the hip. We should feel a nice stretch through the quad, stretching through the opening the stomach meridian on top of the thigh. And just wherever's comfortable, and just breathing into it. Comfortable, you can take your hands by the hips. You can maybe start to open the chest and bring your hands a bit higher up towards the shoulders or cactus arms, or maybe hold the elbows. Okay, and when you're ready, just gently release. So if you're in the less intense option, then you can just hug your belly in and inhale knees to center and maybe just gently draw them from side to side. If you're in the more with your toes pointed, then you can maybe roll onto your side and slide that foot out and do the same, or you can just roll onto your side and release the leg and maybe shake it out if it's quite intense. Okay, so maybe a gentle mobilizing here, and then when you're ready, just extend both legs out and give the legs a nice little shake out. Maybe a little shimmy out through the body, and then just come back into shavasana for another minute or two. And from here, just bring the hands back by the hips, lengthen the spine, relax the shoulders, maybe roll your tailbone under, and then have lots of space through your lower back and lengthen the spine. And just breathing into the body. Observing once again any subtle changes. Deepening the breath. Breathing into any sensations, allowing everything to assimilate. When you're ready, gently wiggle the fingers and toes, and then just do what feels good. Once again, might feel nice to stretch out or hug the knees in, rocking from side to side, maybe rolling into a little ball, or circling the knees. If you want to relax and take a few more breaths in shavasana, and some massaging out through the back. And then if you like, maybe just circle your feet together a few times. So we're just mobilizing the knees in one direction and back the other way. Okay. And then from here, let's do the second side. So once again, option one is bring your knees together and feet are out to the edges of the mat, so that when you just drop the knees across, and then when the outside knee touches, we widen the hip crease, maybe bring the shoulders down and winding that thigh in, and that winding of the myofascia goes around the knee and then helps to support that internal rotation of the hip and support your knee joint as you bring it down, and continue winding down your calf, maybe lengthening out through the inner ankle and deepening here. Otherwise, you can come back up and then roll to one side, and then you keep widening the hip, winding that thigh in, winding it around the knee and calf. Sit back down, and then bringing yourself back onto your forearms, maybe lengthening and bring the crown down, and then rolling yourself back. So, and then if you're in that position, you can drop the other knee out to the side. So keep widening out through that hip, and then winding the thigh, so feeling that stretch through the quad, feeling the opening up through that hip. And you continue winding, feel that knee is nice and supported. So, and you can maybe wind that knee further down towards the mat, maybe start to squeeze the glutes off that top side and lift the hip a little bit and just get a little bit more of a stretch, if that feels good. Keeping the belly drawing in towards the spine. That's in a slight back bend. Arms wherever's comfortable. Arms can stay by the hips, so you can bring them higher up. And you start to open up through the chest, opening up through the sides of the body. Hmm. And then from here, when you're ready, you can either just roll one to the side and release the other leg out a little bit. And then when you're ready, just gentle mobilizing twist, drawing the knees from one side to the other. And extend the legs out, bring the hands back by the hips, give everything a little shake out. And come back into shavasana for a couple of minutes. So just relaxing down, coming back into neutral. Just deepening the breath. Saving the energy. No changes. When you feel your breath and energy has returned to normal, gently start to make some movements, wiggling fingers and toes. Feels good stretching out or maybe hugging the knees in, and then just gently rocking from side to side, massaging the back. Circling the knees in one direction and back the other way. And then take the knees together and just circling the feet. So we are mobilizing the knees and then back the other way. Okay, let's do a gentle twist before, and then we're going to hang out in happy baby for a couple of minutes. So from here, just bend your knees, take your hands out at shoulder height, palms facing down. And then we're just going to pop the hips to your right and then hug your belly in, drop the knees to the left. And so from here, you can keep the eye gaze to the sky. You can look into the same direction as your knees or look to the opposite hand. Keeping the shoulders grounded, inhale, and as you exhale, just hugging the belly in towards the spine and just releasing from your lower back, middle back, upper back and shoulder. Keep that right opposite shoulder on the ground. Maybe if you want a little bit more, take your top knee a little bit higher towards the opposite elbow. Or maybe if it feels comfortable, you can extend that foot out just to get stretch through the back of that leg. So just find what's comfortable. And we're just getting a nice release through the back here. Keep your belly hugging into the spine. Keep the hips level. Take one more breath here. And then you're ready. If your leg is extended, bend the top knee, belly hugs in. Inhale back to center, hips in the middle. Hug the knees in and gently rock from side to side, circling in one direction, back the other way just quickly. And then let's do the second side. So feet back on the ground, pop the hips across. Inhale as you exhale, dropping the knees across. Do the second side. And then keeping the shoulders grounded for this one. And as you exhale, drawing the belly in, maybe just starting to stack the hips a little bit more so you can roll that top hip a little bit further across. Maybe take your top knee towards your opposite elbow. Keep the belly drawing into the spine, keep the hips level. The crease is active. We'll be pushing out through that top leg. Breathing into the body wherever you're feeling the stretch. Just a couple of breaths here. And when you're ready, bending the top knee that's extended, belly hugs in. Inhale, knees back to center, hips in the center. Lengthen the spine and then hug both knees in. From here, just gently rock from side to side. Sharon, just quickly twist on the second side that you haven't done yet. And then hug the knees in. And just gently rock from side to side. So check in with how you feel. Sharon, just even yourself up before you come into a happy baby. And then from here, we're just going to, so from the knees into the belly, we're going to take the knees out. And as you exhale, just hug your knees in towards your armpits. Widen out across your hips. And then just gently start to keep the spine long and maybe lengthening your tailbone back towards the floor. Just take a couple of nice deep breaths here. So thinking about widening and flattening out across your back. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears as you exhale. Keep softening through the hips. And then let's start to lift the feet. So bringing your heels to stack over your knees. And then from here, maybe holding the backs of your knees, or maybe starting to walk the hands higher up through the calves, the ankles, or the outside edges of the feet. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. Keep the hips nice and wide, the hip crease wide. And as you exhale, just keep softening through the hips. And then if it feels good, maybe just some gentle rocking motion from side to side, massaging out through the back. Okay, from here you can maybe stay in happy baby, otherwise maybe just come into a half straddle, which might feel quite nice, stretching out through the inside of the legs. So it'll look like this. Just keep looking and just noticing the sensation, and then maybe bringing that leg back in, maybe a half straddle on the other side. Okay, let's bend the knees back in, bring your feet back into butterfly, and then just interlace your fingers underneath your feet, and then just relax your knees. Let your knees kind of roll out to the sides, and just holding onto the feet, just try to relax your shoulders and just feel a nice little, as you allow the knees to melt out and the feet to fall away from you as you keep holding onto the feet. Might just feel a little stretch through the shoulders. All right, and when you're ready, gently release the feet, engage your core, and then just slide your legs out. And just give them a nice little shake out in the hip sockets from spring wipers with the feet. Maybe a little shimmy out through the body if it feels good. And then just grab whatever you need. If you want a blanket or if you something over your eyes, and just grab whatever you need to be comfortable for the next few minutes. And so when you're ready, just relaxing down. Have your feet just a little bit wider than hip width so your hips can relax. If you need more space through the lower back, just tuck the tailbone under, relax it back down. Lengthen up through the spine, widening shoulders, collarbones. Slide the shoulders back down away from the ears into their sockets. Rest your hands by your hips. If it's comfortable, turn the palms of the hands facing up, fingers lightly curled. Otherwise, your palms facing down if you're feeling ungrounded. And the back of the neck is long, maybe lengthening through the back of your neck as you roll the chin in towards the throat. And keeping the tip of your tongue resting on the roof of the mouth behind the two front teeth so that the energy circuit's connected. Keeping the eyes slightly closed, lips slightly touching, and just deepening the breath here into the body. Allowing everything just to be soft and heavy and relaxed. It's melting down. Okay, so if you're watching this as a video, as a replay, I recommend you stay in shavasana for a little bit longer. Stay there for another 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to get up and say good night. So thank you. Namaste.